Hey there, friends. I'm David Paulides, and this is another copyrighted edition for our video channel, Mystery Rift. This time, we're diving back into the heart of the missing 411 phenomenon, exploring the whispers that the official narratives choose to ignore. Some of you still don't get why I read the letters at the beginning of these videos. I'll say it again. If you find these stories worthless, you probably shouldn't be here. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to educate you about what's been happening in our world for the last 600 years. 600 years. We have cases going back centuries until you hear the stories people send in. It's truly hard to imagine these things are happening silently, right in our own backyards, or deep in the public lands. I've rapidly caught up to the chilling reality of these baffling disappearances, and that's what I'm trying to do for you. Be patient and understand there's a deeper reason to every minute we spend on this channel. One of the most crucial pieces of advice I can give you, and I should probably hammer this home every session, is to listen to that little inner voice, that voice that tells you to get out from somewhere. You might question it. You might rationalize it. But I'm telling you, don't heed it. We probably have ancestral senses we don't understand, developed thousands of years ago to deal with predators that were far more intelligent than a bear or a mountain lion. I recently received a letter from mushroom pickers in Oregon who heard this voice. They were in a familiar patch on an ordinary day. Then, suddenly, a chilling feeling of dread washed over them. A deep, pervasive feeling of being hunted. They left immediately. And they credit that inner command for saving them from whatever predatory intelligence was focusing on them at that moment. When you hear that alarm, now, heed it and get the heck out. The next story addresses one of the most common, yet least understood, profile points in missing 411 people falling to their death. I've talked about countless times people have fallen off mountains, cliffs, and trails, and search and rescue can't explain how they fell. Often, they sustained serious injuries in terrain that wasn't even steep enough to warrant a fatal fall. These are not simple missteps. These are profound physical acts with no logical perpetrator. This story is from a retired CPA who was hiking with a group in the Shawway Gunks, the Gunks in upstate New York. It's an area notorious for huckleberry picking. Kachin, I've stated repeatedly that the number one berry associated with missing people is the huckleberry. During a lunch break, she found herself dangerously close to a cliff edge. She felt the sudden presence of a predator. And then a witness saw something terrifying. The witness saw her being suddenly propelled forward and started yelling, come here right now." The hiker stopped, but she later confirmed, "Someone pushed me from behind." The push was so hard she almost tripped. Yet the witness, frozen in terror, repeated there was no one there. A physical, external force that exists outside of human perception acted violently upon a person. This provides rare validation. How many of those accidental falls that we've documented in our books, hundreds of cases, were actually a terrifying, unseen push from a malicious intelligence? This is an external, unknown force. To understand how these things can happen, we must look outside our common understanding of basic physics. I want to read a brilliant analogy sent in by a follower, suggesting what we are dealing with is ultra-dimensional. He uses the analogy of Joe the fish who lives in a pond. His dimension, Joe knows nothing about the sky, the earth, or the trees beyond his water. His world is bounded by the surface tension. One day, Joe is suddenly snatched out of his dimension by a fisherman's net, a subtle ripple on the surface, and Joe is gone. Sometimes he's returned to the pond, but far away, with strange wounds. The fisherman is an entity that exists in a dimension just outside our grasp. This entity has mastered the control of gravitational forces, the true fabric of our space-time reality. These forces can create a temporary gravitational vortex, a portal that snatches the hiker out of our world. just like the net snatches Joe the fish. This would explain a host of anomalies. It explains missing time. Strong gravitational forces can slow down or distort time. A victim in another dimension might only experience a few hours while weeks pass for us searching below. It also explains the location anomaly. The writer suggests these portals are naturally occurring, maybe triggered by dense materials like granite and boulders, all common geological elements found at the heart of our missing 411 cluster zones. Now, the most disturbing question this theory raises: why national parks? Why these designated areas that are supposed to be safe havens? I believe these parks were designated not just to preserve beauty, but because some elements within the government knew all along that these areas facilitate the creation of these vortices, these doorways. It confuses the investigation. It keeps the jurisdiction murky. And the very threat of dangerous wildlife, the bears, the mountain lions, keeps the majority of people on defined, monitored paths far away from the true, unseen danger. With that dimensional context in mind, let's look at historical evidence that suggests an external, organized force is at play. We go back to Walter Hay, missing December 23, 1912, near the Mount Rainier National Park cluster zone. Walter went cougar hunting. He had provisions for 2 days, and his 2 loyal dogs. He failed to return. The first search efforts were immediately compromised by a massive snowfall that covered the forest floor. But the key anomaly is this: both dogs returned uninjured. His son tried to get the dogs to track past the cabin where Walter was last known to be twice. They were terrified. The dogs had absolutely no interest in going back into those woods, even for their master. I've heard countless stories of dogs staying with their master even after death. This is different. Something broke that loyalty. Next, R. J. Curdley Hall, missing July 18, 1935, from Old Settler Mountain in British Columbia. He vanished from a high-altitude camp. This case is about the utter, complete obliteration of evidence. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police brought in a team, including 2 of the most experienced First Nations trackers in the world. These men can read a misplaced pebble like a road map. They searched for a week at and above the timberline. The result: they didn't find a single track. No trail. No sign of passage. R. J. Hall simply vanished into thin air, defying the basic physics of our world. Finally, Roger Kirch, 15 years old, missing November 4, 1979, from the Norse Peak Wilderness, right near Mount Rainier. He was hunting with friends, left the party to hunt alone, a classic point of separation, and vanished. This area is saturated with water lakes, creeks, rivers, a dominant characteristic in so many of our cluster cases. A large search failed to find him in 6 days. These are not isolated, clumsy accidents. I have to lay the blame somewhere, and based on the evidence, the invisible pushes, the complete lack of tracks, the time anomalies. I am convinced that a predatory force is at play. It's an entity, or a collection of entities, that has mastered control over our physical reality and our sense of time. They are operating in the wilderness as a fisherman operates over a pond, selectively harvesting us. They remove us when we cross a physical, or perhaps a dimensional threshold. Think of it as pest control. As one writer put it, we're crossing into their domain, and they are reminding us where the boundaries truly lie. This truth is too terrifying for our society to handle. It would force us to confront our entire understanding of physics and our place in the universe, and we're simply not ready. For those of you going into the wilderness this summer, please heed this advice. Tell a trusted person the exact date and time you expect to be out. If you're not out, they call search and rescue. Research a personal locator beacon. Don't rely on cell service. You need that lifeline. And if you feel that primal, chilling urge to leave, leave immediately. Do not question it. Thanks greatly. I'm appreciative that you're here, sharing these stories and keeping this conversation alive. Have a safe summer, and be nice to somebody today. This is David Paulides for Mystery Rift. Paulides out.